I'll tell you straight up, the president of our homeowners association sawed through my nephew's treehouse while he was still inside it. And her reason? She called it removing an eyesore. You ever hear anything that ridiculous? Yeah, the only thing that got removed that day was my last ounce of self-control when I saw my nephew loaded into an ambulance. But let's roll it back a bit, because stories like these never start where you think. My name's Mark Hale. Most days, that's not a headline name. It's just what goes on a form, you know? But on the day my nephew's world got turned upside down, suddenly it was everything. That name meant I was the guy on duty, the one who had to step up and fix what broke. See, my sister, she's always been the worrier. It's her job. Comes with the territory when you're a mom. Me, since getting back from the army and moving in to help out, my job is not to worry. Just keep the wheels on, build what needs building, fix what gets broken, make life steadier for my little family. Evan, my nephew, he's 8 and has more energy than a pack of squirrels after Red Bull. His dad works out of state. Long stretches, you know? So day to day, it's mostly me and my sister running the show. That morning, we were outside working on a tree fort. Not just any fort. This was going to be a kid's castle, set up between 2 big old oaks in the side yard that faces the lake. We did it right, too. 4x4 posts, 5 feet off the grass, good lumber, deck screws. I don't mess with nails when I'm building with kids. Evan was my foreman, taking the job very seriously. I showed him how to measure, how to get a screw started. He'd line it up, and I'd drive it in with the drill. Sun shining, wood smells like pine and sweat and plans. He's got his little crooked window design, calls the whole thing Fort Kick Butt. His mom didn't love the name, but I told her, hey, you need a name that'll scare off imaginary pirates, right? So, we're in the groove. Pile of scrap growing. Castle getting taller. And then there's our only enemy. At least I thought she was the only one, Karen Dunn, president of the HOA. Now, Karen thinks a perfect neighborhood is where the grass lines up straighter than soldiers at roll call. Our fort? In her eyes, it's some kind of crime against property values, a blight, a scandal. She's been leaving us these nasty little notes. Really puts her feelings in that slanted script. I just used them as fire starter for the grill. Figured she'd run out of fancy paper before I ran out of burgers to cook. Except this time, Karen didn't leave a note. She came storming right up, power suit on a Saturday, hands on hips, scowl like she's about to send us all to the principal's office. Mark, this is your final warning, she says, voice like rocks in a blender. That thing violates 17 different covenants. Evan stops hammering, looks at me like, is she for real? I keep it easy because I've seen real trouble, and this isn't it. Yet. Morning, Karen. 17? Wow, you must have pulled an all-nighter with that rule book. I half expect her to threaten us with a firing squad. She goes on about property values, unapproved structures, gives us a 24-hour warning. I just keep building. What's she gonna do? Slap us with a $50 fine. But she's shaking with rage. You will see, she says, and stomps off to her perfect, joyless house. Evan, bless him, asks, is she going to break our fort, Uncle Mark? I ruffle his hair. No one's breaking anything. Let's finish this roof. We get back to work. Evan's inside the fort, king of his castle, issuing royal decrees about ice cream and no bedtime. I'm outside, measuring a beam, when I hear it, a power tool, high and sharp. And there she is, Karen, right up at our fort with a reciprocating saw, blade already chewing into one of the main posts. Karen, stop! I yell, dropping everything, running. Evan's inside. She doesn't look up. Saw screaming, wood splintering. And then, crack, groan, and Evan scream. Time stopped. The whole thing collapsed. I saw Karen standing there, saw, still humming, looking like a villain out of a bad TV movie. I didn't even look at her. Instinct kicked in, dive into the wreckage, toss aside boards, shouting for Evan. Found him pinned under a beam, his little leg bent all wrong, his red shirt torn, covered in dust. Neighbors poured out. Paul next door's already on with 911. Mrs. Gwynn across the street's a statue on her porch, hand over her mouth. Karen? She just stands there, saw dangling, face all twisted up with a weird kind of shock and satisfaction, as if she can't believe what she did, but somehow she's still glad. Ambulance, police, chaos but focused. EMTs stabilize Evan, cut away his pant leg. Deputy Torres steps up, calm, sharp-eyed. No nonsense. He takes it all in. The wreck, the saw, the sobbing kid, Karen holding the murder weapon. Doesn't take much. Mrs. Gwynn's already telling him she did it. I saw it all. She cut it down with that saw while the boy was still inside. Torres walks up to Karen, asks for the saw. She tries to bluster. I was within my rights. That thing was illegal. But he just tells her again, and she drops it in the grass. You are under arrest for aggravated assault and child endangerment. The sound of handcuffs never sounded so good. Evan gets loaded up, pale, crying, whispering, she broke for a kick but Uncle Mark. I squeeze his hand. We'll build it back stronger. Ambulance lights disappear. Karen gets hauled off in a cop car, and I'm left standing there covered in sawdust and a kind of cold, angry calm I hadn't felt since the army. Now, the legal system moves slow, but it moves. Judge puts a strict no-contact order on Karen. But I know, some people don't see laws as walls, just as speed bumps. I needed more than a police report. I needed ironclad proof. My place became a war room. Evan's at the hospital. Paul, my neighbor, comes over. He's an IT guy, steady as bedrock, smart as hell. We pull every scrap of digital evidence. Doorbell cams, driveway cams, every angle. Sure enough, Paul's camera caught it all. Karen marching up, saw in hand, Evan's little head in the window. You see her glance right at him before she cuts. We sync the footage with the body cam from Deputy Torres, filed a request, and everything. Now, every second is locked in. Karen looks up, sees Evan, starts sawing anyway. There's your intent, clear as day. But we need the human angle, too. That's where Mrs. Gwynn steps in, old widow, memory like a steel trap. I sit with her on her porch. She remembers everything, the saw, the sound, even what I was wearing. She describes watching me and Evan work, then Karen's determined march with that weapon. Her story matches the video word for word. I edited it all together, a clinical timeline, emotion stripped away, just facts, suspect approaches structure. Victim visible. Suspect begins cutting. Send it to the DA, my lawyer, my sister. But a question's bugging me. Why would anyone go to these lengths over a treehouse? There had to be more than HOA power tripping. So I start digging. Nothing in the HOA minutes, nothing in the budgets. But then, an anonymous email. Check the property sale records for 312 Willow Creek Lane and ask Arthur why he's so quiet. Arthur's the HOA vice president, and 312 is the house behind ours, just sold for a record price to an out-of-state development corporation, right before Karen took out the fort. I pay Arthur a visit. The guy looks like a deer in headlights, but when I tell him this is for Evan, 8 years old, broken leg, he caves. She bullied us all, he says. She threatened anyone who stood up to her. The buyers of that house wanted an unobstructed view of the lake. The only thing in the way? 2 oaks and our treehouse. Karen, it turns out, was promised a $10,000 consulting fee from the real estate agent if she delivered the view. She wasn't defending property values. She was defending a payday. I get my hands on emails, texts, her own words, taking direct action tomorrow. Consider the sight lines clean. I take the whole bundle to the DA. Now it's not just assault. It's conspiracy, fraud, malice. Suddenly, the charges get real serious. But insurance won't cover it. They call it a willful act. No corporate bailout for Karen. That means the civil case is going to squeeze her for every cent of Evan's medical bills. And honestly, that feels right. Karen gets desperate. She tries intimidation, sending her nephew to scare Mrs. Gwynn, our star witness. But Paul, being Paul, has a dash cam running and catches the whole thing in the grocery store parking lot. We send the footage to Torres. Judge sees it, and that's it, bail revoked. Karen goes straight to jail. The board finally gets its act together, too. Arthur calls a vote. Karen's out. The relief in the room is almost physical. The criminal case is a slow train, but our civil trial moves faster. Our lawyer, Ben Carter, is methodical. He lays it out. Karen broke every rule, every process, then broke the law for cash. We play the video for the jury, doorbell, body cam, dash cam. We show the texts, emails, the consulting fee. Mrs. Gwynn testifies, and then we play Evan's deposition, him and his cast, talking about the shaky lady with the loud, buzzing thing. Jury's in tears. The defense tries to spin it, but the jury's not buying it. Verdict? Full damages, medical, pain and suffering, punitive. More than $1 million. It won't heal Evan's leg overnight, but it means something. And here's where life shifts. Saturday, blue skies, a little chill. I'm clearing the yard, figuring I'll start rebuilding Fort Kickbutt on my own, just me and Evan. But Paul shows up with his saw, Buddy from down the block brings concrete mix, neighbors pour in tools, lumber, cookies, lemonade. Mrs. Gwynn's the cheerleader. Even Torres swings by off-duty, drops off a box of heavy-duty carriage bolts from the whole station. The fort goes up again, bigger, stronger, every bolt a symbol. Evan's the inspector, bright red cast, toy hard hat, joy in his eyes. At the end, he climbs up, kind of hops up, using his good leg, and shouts thank you to everyone. The whole block cheers. It's not just a fort. It's a monument to resilience, a middle finger to bullies, a marker that says you can knock us down, but we build back stronger together. Months go by. The seasons change. Evan's cast comes off. He's back to climbing, his scar just a story to tell. Karen's house sells to a young family. Their kids and Evan race bikes around the Oaks. Arthur's the new HOA president, does a fine job by doing basically nothing. The legal stuff winds down. Karen takes a plea, does her time. Kyle gets probation for the gun at the meeting. The nephew pleads out on a misdemeanor for scaring an old lady. It's not perfect justice, but it's real, and it's enough. Then, one quiet day, I run into Karen at the hardware store. No suit, just jeans looking small. We nod. No words. Storms past. Sometimes justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's just the silence that follows, the absence of fear. That's the thing they don't tell you about life. You fight for what matters. You stand your ground. You gather your proof. You keep your people safe. But in the end, you go home and you sand the edges of a bookshelf smooth for a kid who's counting on you. So let me ask you, where's the line between defending what's right and letting things slide? How far would you go to protect your own? Would you have stood up, or would you have let the Karen win? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your own stories of justice, of standing up, of facing down the bullies. Because sometimes the only way to fix a broken world is to rebuild it together. One bolt, one board, one act of kindness at a time.